Mac ran a hand along the dusty banister. Silence pressed in, heavy and absolute. The old mansion breathed dust, whispered secrets in the creaking floorboards. He was alone, utterly alone. He'd sought solace in the isolation, the quiet vastness of the abandoned house. Now, the silence felt like a weight, a presence. Sunbeams, fractured by grime-coated windows, sliced through the gloom. Dust motes danced, a spectral ballet in the stillness. He wandered through rooms stripped bare, echoes of forgotten lives clinging to the mildewed wallpaper. Each footstep felt heavy, a transgression in the sacred hush. Mac yearned for a sound, any sound, to break the oppressive silence. But the only answer was the rasp of his own breath, echoing in his ears like a stranger's whisper. He found the library on the second floor, a cavernous space choked with shadows. Bookshelves lined the walls, their once proud volumes now victims to time and neglect. The air hung heavy, thick with the scent of decay and forgotten stories. Mac ran his fingers along the spines, tracing titles lost to the gloom. A low groan echoed through the room as he shifted a towering bookshelf, its base rotted and weak. Behind it, a gap yawned in the wall, revealing a narrow doorway. Curiosity, a flickering candle in the oppressive darkness, drew him closer. He peered into the opening, the musty scent of undisturbed air washing over him. A staircase, swallowed by shadows, beckoned him deeper into the mansion's silent heart. He hesitated, a prickle of unease crawling up his spine. This wasn't on the blueprints. He was sure of it. Yet the pull of the unknown, the allure of the unseen, was too strong to resist. The air grew colder as he descended, each step a descent into a chilling unknown. The stairs creaked a rhythmic groan, the only sound in the oppressive silence. He emerged into a hallway, a perfect mirror of the one above. But something felt wrong, subtly twisted. The wallpaper, a faded floral pattern, seemed to pulse with a faint luminescence. The shadows here felt deeper, hungrier, swallowing the meagre light that trickled down the stairs. A cold draught snaked around his ankles, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and something else, something unidentifiable and unsettling. He ran his hand along the wall, the plaster cold and damp beneath his fingertips. A shiver ran down his spine, a primal fear of the unknown taking root in his gut. This wasn't just a hidden flaw, it was a place forgotten, a space where the rules of the house no longer applied. He wandered through rooms that mirrored those above, yet felt subtly wrong, as though reflected in a funhouse mirror. Proportions were slightly off, angles skewed. A grandfather clock stood frozen at 3:13, its pendulum eerily still. He heard it then, a soft sigh, a whisper of movement from the room ahead. He froze, his heart pounding against his ribs. The silence stretched, punctuated only by the rasp of his own breath. He strained to hear, but the sound, if there was one, didn't repeat. He crept closer, drawn by a morbid curiosity he couldn't explain. The air grew thick, heavy with an unseen presence. He felt a chill, a phantom breath on the back of his neck, and he spun around, his heart in his throat. But the room was empty, the shadows playing tricks on his frayed nerves. Still, the feeling persisted, a certainty that he was not alone, that he was being watched. The door to the master bedroom stood ajar, a sliver of darkness beckoning him forward. He pushed it open slowly, the hinges groaning in protest. Moonlight spilled through a gap in the boarded-up windows, illuminating the dust-covered furniture. And then he saw him. A man lay asleep on the bed, his chest rising and falling in a steady rhythm. He was the spitting image of Mac, yet different. His skin was paler, almost translucent, stretched taut over his bones. His hair was longer, darker, framing a face that was both familiar and unnervingly alien. But it was the smile that chilled Mac to the core, a small secret smile that didn't reach his eyes. They were open, those eyes staring sightlessly at the ceiling, open and unblinking. He stood there, paralyzed, caught in the gaze of his own reflection, twisted into something strange and terrifying. The air crackled with an unspoken tension, the silence screaming in his ears. He wanted to look away, to run, but his feet felt rooted to the spot. He was caught in the doppelganger's gaze, trapped in a nightmare of his own making. Panic clawed at his throat, a silent scream building in his chest. The figure on the bed remained unchanged, its smile unwavering, its gaze fixed and empty. Max stumbled back, his hand connecting with the wall for support. As his hand brushed the cold plaster, a voice whispered his name. It was his own voice, yet distorted, echoing from the very walls themselves. He whirled around, searching for the source of the sound, but the room remained unchanged. The whispers continued, fragments of thoughts, snippets of memories, all twisted and distorted, echoing from the shadows, seeming to seep from the very walls themselves. He clapped his hands over his ears, trying to block out the sound, but it was no use. The whispers were inside his head now, slithering through his thoughts, planting seeds of doubt. His reflection in the dusty window seemed to mock him, its features blurring, shifting, becoming something other. He was losing himself in the labyrinth of his own mind, the line between reality and nightmare blurring with every passing moment. He had to get out, escape the suffocating presence of the doppelganger and the insidious whispers that gnawed at his sanity. He turned to flee, but the hallway seemed to stretch endlessly before him, the walls closing in, the air thick and cloying. He caught his reflection in a tarnished mirror on the wall, his face pale and drawn, eyes wide with terror. But as he watched, his reflection began to change, its features morphing, twisting into a grotesque mockery of his own. The reflection smiled, the same chilling, vacant smile that graced the face of the figure on the bed. Panic surged through him, cold and sharp. He was trapped, not just in this twisted reflection of his own home, but in the prison of his own mind. The whispers intensified, a chorus of his own voice taunting him, questioning his sanity, his very identity. He stumbled back, his hand grasping for the doorknob, but it slipped from his grasp, cold and slick. He was losing his grip on reality, on himself. The line between observer and observed blurred, the mirror reflecting back a stranger wearing his face. He didn't remember running, but he found himself back in the master bedroom, chest heaving, heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. The figure on the bed remained unchanged, its eyes still fixed on the ceiling, its smile an unsettling rictus. He stared at it, his breath catching in his throat. Was it him? Was this what he looked like through another's eyes? The thought sent a chill down his spine, a terrifying possibility taking root in his mind. He reached out a trembling hand, his fingers hovering just above the doppelganger's skin. It felt cold, deathly cold, and he recoiled as if burned. A wave of dizziness washed over him, and he stumbled back, his vision blurring at the edges. The whispers intensified, swirling around him like a vortex, dragging him down into a bottomless abyss. He was losing himself, his sense of self dissolving into the shadows. He no longer knew which one of them was real, which one was the imposter. Or maybe, he thought with a dawning horror, they both were. He woke with a gasp, the nightmare clinging to him like cobwebs. Lying on the dusty floor, morning light filtered through boarded-up windows. He stumbled to the tarnished mirror, searching his reflection for any trace of the doppelganger. But the face staring back was his own, haggard but his. Relief washed over him. It had all been a dream, brought on by the old house's oppressive atmosphere. As he turned away, a flicker in the mirror caught his eye. For a moment he saw it, the doppelganger smiling coldly. Then it vanished. He stood frozen, wondering. Had he escaped the nightmare, or had it escaped with him?